The internet's age and the rise of high-speed internet really led to an increased access in online entertainment. Once Wi-Fi speeds reached a certain sort of inflection point, it only made sense that instead of sending you a physical DVD or going to rent a videotape, entertainment will be streamed directly to your laptop or to your television. Netflix really kicked off this boom in the streaming age, taking us from the age of terrestrial TV with those funny little rabbit cables that you might remember if you were born in the dark ages like myself, to cable television, and now the streaming era. After Netflix launched this challenge on a global basis, big companies like Amazon Prime and Discover, Hulu, and Disney have all taken on the challenge. In Africa, Iroko was one of the earliest players in this space. And they launched a space that much bigger players and lots of other players have come into over that time. Today on Tech Into the Future, we invite you to join us into the streaming wars and see what is their state in 2024.
Hello and welcome to Tech Into the Future, where we talk about everything that's happening in technology and how it affects you. My name is Ngozi Maduka-Dozie, and I look after Android partnerships for West Africa at Google.
And my name is Tomiwa Adikomo. I'm the CEO of Tech Cabal, a digital publication that's been covering African tech for the last decade. Alongside Ngozi, I will be your guide into the world of tech in Nigeria, Africa, and the world. Okay, so I outed myself earlier on as a bit of a dinosaur.
Yes,
I still remember.
Way younger than you are.
Yeah,
that
of course.
Just yourself.
You mean that you never had a TV with like those cables that you had to? You never banged the TV to remove the snow.
do you remember when the TV wouldn't even come on till like 4 o'clock?
Oh man.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
See, if you tell your children that, they'll be like, "What you
mean come on? Mean? Like what would you be watching?"
And then do you remember the giants like when we went to the satellite dish era?
Yes.
Because now the DSTV dishes are really small, but it used to be those like giant things that cover like they were like the size of a car.
And then have you ever tried to change the channel on the
the thing moves. The thing would actually shift.
Find the satellite.
Yeah, no. I think one of the really interesting things about technology is just how much like each shift in technology changes the form.
Yeah.
So like, a phone used to be this big and then a dish used to be that big and now it's this small. And then you get to streaming. So I think a really interesting thing about streaming for me personally was that I had Netflix in the US when they used to physically send you discs.
Yes.
So they had these really distinctive red envelopes that you could, and they would send them to you 3 DVDs at a time, and then you would watch one and you'd mail it back to them, and then they'd mail you another one.
Yeah.
And I really loved it. It was like a great experience. It was like really...
Because it was a step up from Blockbuster.
It was a step up from Blockbuster, and the video... I mean, that being said, I grew up in the video store era, and I loved the video store era.
We had video.
You go, you rent your video.
Here in Nigeria, we had the one in VI, and we had one on Awolowo Road.
I grew up in Surulere area, so I had the one at Leventis or something like that.
So yes, we were So clearly we're about the same age.
Yeah, there you go. No, so I think it's been a fantastic evolution, and I remember that Netflix used to talk, and I was kind of paying attention to the business a bit then, and they used to talk about the fact that they were going to streaming.
Right.
But my experience of the internet at the time made it seem like they were mad.
Exactly.
I was just like, there is no way that anybody's going to send me a movie, and not even that you're going to download the movie and watch the movie.
Later, right.
They're going to attempt to stream it to you, so you're going to be like downloading as you're watching, and I didn't get it. So when I moved back to Nigeria, I canceled my Netflix subscription because I was like, that thing they're talking about, it's never going to work, And then maybe 3 years later, everybody was talking about it, and they were like, it's actually working.
Happening. It's happening.
And so I signed up, but I wasn't sure, you know.
And I think what's interesting is that a lot of things were happening at the same time, right? The forms were changing, the technology behind the forms were changing. And so internet also went through its evolution from dial-up.
Because you weren't streaming on Edge.
Exactly, you were streaming on Edge. Yes, exactly. And so to imagine that Netflix is here, but even prior to Netflix getting here, there was Roku TV.
And speaking about you, so just I'm gonna let's talk about Ngozi a little bit here. So you've had you worked on the telco side.
I did.
So and about the time when we moved from Edge to G to 3G, and then you went and you actually had the chance to work with Roku.
I sure did.
So you want to tell us a little bit about because it's an interesting intersect. Yeah.
So it truly is interesting. From MTN, actually worked at MTN at a telco, and at the time what we're doing was trying to get people online. This is when a lot of the big players like Facebook and the rest of them realized that people were accessing the internet on their phones. Remember, that's another thing that we didn't discuss.
And you know what's funny is that things always look obvious when you're looking back at them.
Exactly.
But, and for our viewers, this is quite important. Nobody knew that the internet would move primarily to mobile
phones. Yep.
So for the longest time, internet was something that you looked at on your computer and you accessed on your computer. And when mobile phones came out, it wasn't clear that that was going to be the primary computing platform or the primary platform for accessing the internet.
Very true.
And even for something like Facebook, which you also had the opportunity to work with, nobody was sure that Facebook was going to make a lot of real money because the thought was nobody knew that the phones were going to be that important, you know. So interesting transitions. But
you're right, because again, a lot of things were going on, and this is where we talk about the convergence, right? The convergence is media, right? Technology. And mobile, right? The mobile industry.
Technology.
Yeah.
Mobile,
so if you think about it, content is what we're all watching, right?
Yeah,
and we're
that's
all
the
able
media.
to. That's the media.
Yeah.
And we're all able to watch it because technology has evolved. We're watching it in the medium that we're watching it, which is on your mobile phone.
Yeah.
Which is because technology has evolved.
Yeah.
So that's what. Whenever you hear people talking about the convergence, it's that, right? Especially in this particular space. The convergence is that now they're all three. So you would find that even your traditional telcos are now technology companies, right? And they also have their TV version.
Yeah.
You have Airtel TV. So there is that convergence, and we have been privileged to be part of the evolution as individuals and as Nigerians. And I think one of the main interesting things, again, we're talking about the evolution from the Roku TVs. Another thing that has also helped is payment, because I remember a time when in Roku TV, you wanted to pay, you had to go to the bank, right, to pay, because we didn't have the Flutterwaves of the world yet, and we didn't have Paystack. So there are a lot of things that have been happening in the space, and today on Tech Into the Future, when we talk about streaming wars, we actually have with us, one of the premier platforms here on the continent, and yeah, that's it.
So don't go anywhere. Stay with us on Tech Into the Future. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tech Into the Future on Arise News. Today's guest is a seasoned player in the media space. He oversees the Showmax Nigeria operations, providing strategic direction and implementing programs to ensure they meet their business and profit objectives. Showmax is currently the leading streaming platform in Africa. A report recently sort of declared that they'd surpassed Netflix, which has previously had this title. So, welcome, Okwe.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, indeed.
I see this mark on your face when you mentioned that we're number one, but we're actually indeed number one.
It wasn't a smirk. I'm happy for you.
So actually, talking about that report, do you mind just telling us about the journey of Showmax into streaming?
Okay, so Showmax started in Nigeria in 2019, was officially launched when we then gave access to local players or local customers to be able to pay in Naira. Mm-hmm. Between then and now, we've continuously grown our local content, ensuring that every market that we operate, which is the hyper-local strategy that Showmax employs in every market that we go, that create content that resonates with the local market using local talents and local producers. Again, it's about developing the ecosystem within those local space. Fast forward till last year, we then, of course, the MultiChoice Group then got investment from NBC Universal, which allowed some inputs about that. The initial investment was 28 billion. A new one is just about to, the second tranche is about to be made now. With that, we're able
Sorry,
to...
I have to interrupt you. We have to declare currency because...
Dollars. Dollars, yeah. But over the period, we've grown our local originals. Just last year, we had 22 nominations from the Africa AMVCAs, which means that the local audience actually appreciates the content that we're growing. We've just recently relaunched the brand on the back of the investment that we had from Peacock, which allows, well, Peacock is the NBC Universal's streaming platform, which then enables us to expand the capabilities that we have within the streaming space. On top of that, we've changed the product mix. Initially, we had only general entertainment content, and then we had sports, but now we have an EPL-only offer, nice, which allows customers access to all 360 games, of course, on mobile.
Yes, yes, of course.
Which I think is fantastic. Yes, a lot of people would complain that why not TV, but I believe that if you look at the growing size of the mobile market in Africa, there's a lot more opportunity within the mobile space rather than just TV. The MultiChoice Group itself reaches over 20 million households. If in Nigeria only we have 100 million telephones, you can imagine the breadth of opportunities that we can keep in that space. So we will continue to grow ourselves in ensuring we provide local content at making it affordable, accessible, and effortless for our customers.
I really like this, and it's interesting though. So just before you came in, we talked a little bit about sort of the convergence and like what are the elements that make this thing possible. And so there's the content, and you've talked a lot about the content. So it seems like from a strategy perspective, local content is a big sort of leg in there. Sports, obviously a big leg of your play, and always has been a big part of kind of the MultiChoice DSTV play. So that's a second one. NBC Universal, Peacock, that gives you access to international content. Correct. Again, always been a big part of kind of the MultiChoice kind of DSTV sort of universe. But separate from that, there's the technology element of it and the platform element of it. So platform, you're moving to mobile, and I guess I want to talk a little bit about how you think about that, because it is essentially. Are you thinking about it as a platform shift where your audience is eventually all going to move to mobile? Or are you thinking about it as long-term, we're going to maintain, dominance in TV, and there's going to be a huge TV audience while we continue to build this mobile audience? How do you think about that, sort of the shifting from platform and from technology platform to technology platform?
Well, if I speak so the Peacock platform enables, as you know, Peacock has been around, well, it's
apologies. For our audience, what is Peacock?
Okay, so
NBC, people have heard of.
So Peacock is the streaming platform for NBC.
NBC, okay.
Yeah. So what we've done with the relaunch and the back end, the engine for Showmax has become the Peacock.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you look at the trajectory of Peacock itself, so if you look at the NFL games.
Okay, yeah.
If you look at the size of streaming that happens during these large games, having a platform like that gives a wide breadth for streaming to happen in Africa. That tells you the level of expansion that we're hoping to achieve within a short time, so you can scale very quickly. On the back of that, we then have the studios that NBC already has, so Telemundo, Sky, all the contents that we can get guarantees that we have a pipeline of internationals that will continue to ensure that our viewers or our customers are fully engaged. Aside of that, we then come back to the question that you asked about the mobile. If you look at the numbers already tells you that where Africa is a growing youthful population, they are digitally hopefully becoming digitally natives. The younger the population, the more they will be more digital natives. TV would always be there. We're just saying, how do we make it accessible and affordable and effortless to people, to a wider audience? Which is why, if you look at the TV numbers, how much can you really grow within that space? We are still offering TV streaming. It's available. We're just saying that the price point, the entry point for everybody at the moment is 1,200 for mobile. And that mobile space is wide enough for us to reach everybody on the streets who has a mobile or a smartphone. Well, not everybody.
So I'm curious about a lot of things. Now we're talking about your model. So several things in one question.
Yeah.
There is cannibalization that I wonder if you are concerned about, because obviously it seems like it's more affordable to come onto Showmax. So then if I am on DSTV, why won't I just cancel my DSTV and then get onto Showmax? So that's one question, but it kind of leads into the other about content, right? The content spread that you have, is it the same on DSTV as it, like, so your premium DSTV package, would I get the same thing that I would get on Showmax Premium?
The premium DSTV package?
Yes.
And Showmax, no.
And Showmax.
Okay. So
I'm just trying to figure, let me tell you what, I'm trying to figure out why I would have DSTV and Showmax, or would I typically choose one over the other?
Well, I would rather you have both.
Of course you would.
Yeah. but you see, it's about habits.
Okay.
So when it comes to, if you look at streaming and linear is about channels, and those channels are usually timed. So you want to have a show that shows at 4 o'clock or between a time belt. The consumer that would go on streaming is on demand. So he wants to have control over when, how, and what shows they watch per time. Which is why we would rather, if you like certain content, you would have both.
Right.
But if at all you choose one, it would also be dependent on your consumption of content. We have decided that as Showmax, we're providing access to the quality of content to a wide audience as effortlessly and affordably. If we believe that linear would always remain, the content on both sides, we have different windows that we do it.
Okay, of course, yes.
You window it, but there are certain contents that you would have on Showmax that you would not have on linear.
Okay, fair enough. Interesting.
Well, how do you worry about cannibalization?
What do you mean by cannibalization? So
do you, from a habit perspective or a pattern perspective, do you see people dropping DSTV to pick up Showmax? Or do you see any tension or vice versa going back?
So like I said, the audience is different. If you notice, the younger generation do everything on mobile.
Yep.
The attention span is even, and everything is about, and I'm still young, I'm not saying I'm old.
Right.
I'm one of them. Of us. Yeah, we're all part of them. So it's a microwave.
Swaddling babes.
Yeah. So and I still had a conversation with some younger. Yeah, who came to my office this morning and they were talking about, linear is dead. I'm like, no, linear is not dead. It's just you.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Your consumption pattern is different. You want to determine when and how you watch. So cannibalization is really not going to happen. It depends on where or how your consumption patterns are. There's a wide space in TV.
Yeah.
Linear would remain. People that still want to watch their 9 o'clock till tomorrow, people still watch the 9 o'clock news. And there are certain generations that don't even know what 9 o'clock is now. Like
they've never seen, the idea has never
it hasn't crossed their mind.
I mean, to be fair, we are on linear as we speak.
Exactly.
Now. This will be aired on linear.
And what you
first,
and then on.
And what you find is, based on statistics, only 2% of Africans have access to streaming at the moment, which is why you have all the internationals want to come here. They think there's an opportunity here. As multi-choice group, we have the widest, we are best positioned for it because we understand the markets. We have the infrastructure has been built across Africa in different countries that we've operated in. We understand linear. Now
you're mastering or attempting to master. I mean, that brings us directly into kind of the heart of it, because this episode's about the streaming wars. So we have a few kind of big players in the market. Netflix, obviously, first out the door. You've overtaken them. I think Amazon Prime, big entry, big splash into the market, a very, very big pullback earlier this year. How do you guys see the competition?
So, competition, like I was just saying now, that the MultiChoice Group is probably there's no other company on the planet, on the continent, that has the kind of experience and the infrastructure to execute when it comes to media. You then layer that up with a partnership that we've done with NBC Universal, which guarantees that the platform is stable, is able to scale at a wide range. We've extended our content offering across all the genres. We will continue to produce local content. We are Africa focused. We will, for now, the strategy is Africa. We have intentions of course, licensing some of the contents that we produce for as local originals, but Africa focused in the sense you can only access Showmax in Africa as we speak. And the reason for that is we want to be able to make that content, the quality of content that is available across both international and local, at an affordable, accessible, and effortlessly for our consumers.
Okay. Sticking on the wars, right? I feel like there's several levers for this war. As an example, there's pricing, there's the platform itself, and as the people say, content is king.
Yes.
I'm very curious about EPL and sports in general. I have to ask, is that live programming?
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, in my mind, that is probably where the differentiation starts to be obvious. It's like when you start with live programming, especially live programming of, every African loves football. Soccer. No, football.
Football.
I was right the first time.
Yes.
Okay, so football. And so that obviously is one of the big changes. Would you, or I don't know if you can tell us, would you then go into live streaming of concerts and a lot of those other things? Because I think that those are some of the ways where you're bringing that linear knowledge, because that's what you see on linear TV, right? This concert is showing, or WizKid or Burna or wherever, and being able to give that to us on our platform. You're smiling.
I'm smiling because you're digging deep. But what I can tell you is the Pickup platform has the capability to do all that you've said. So streaming live content, we will look at those opportunities as they come. The EPL itself is so big. Football in Nigeria, Africa is a big differentiator. 20% of EPL viewers today are from Africa.
Wow.
Which is why we are making accessible to the wider audience to be able to. The EPL themselves, they've never done this before, to have a partner that they allow to distribute on mobile strictly. We think that's a game changer for us. None of our competitors would have that, at least for the short term. Aside of having NBC Universal, we'll continue to have HBO content.
Exactly, yes.
We have other partnerships, Sony, that would continue to foil or ensure that our content library is competitive. But with the live content, just look at that space.
Let me ask you about sort of investing in local content, which is obviously an area that you were early in, but then Netflix and then Amazon kind of came in and really sort of like the check sizes in terms of their investments in that space changed. How do you think about that? Like, what it takes to make global quality, what it takes to make global quality content from Africa?
Yeah. So, if I take a step back, and I did say it's like catching up. Okay. If you look at, part of the MultiChoice Group that currently has over 80,000 hours of local content. How do you start to? It will take millions of years.
MultiChoice, huge early investor. And we Africa Magic, big game changer in terms of local content.
And we
there was a substantial challenge,
which is nice. And we do like it. The fact that it has changed the game. It has upped the quality of content. And I'm really proud of the kind of content that we're even bringing out of Africa now. And if you're on streaming, because it's accessible everywhere, the quality of content that you must produce must be able to stand that level of scrutiny. The producers that we worked with locally also know that working with Showmax on a local original would up your game. It helps them to up their skill. Even on the multi-choice side, we do have the multi-choice talent factory trying to grow talent for that level of the quality of content that we. As a business, we'll continue to do that. Our goal is to grow Africa for Africans by Africans.
Interesting. Let's take a pause. We're going to go to break and we'll be right back.
Sure.
Welcome back to Tech into the Future. We're here with Okbe from Showmax, General Manager for Showmax, and we're talking about the streaming wars.
So, talk about working with sort of African content producers and sourcing content. What's changed in that relationship over the recent year?
Okay, well, of course, if you look at the introduction or the competition that has come in has allowed options for producers. So they'll come to you and the pricing, it becomes a price war, like, oh, if this person is offering X amount. But for us, we've been in this business long enough to know what is, at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yeah.
So what is worth investing in?
Okay.
We know what the audience wants, and consistently, the content that we released, which is what then speaks to the fact that we had 22 nominations from AMVC, it's the audience that determines it.
Let me
No, but
so that you won't think I'm your enemy, but there's some things I have to ask. Is Netflix entering their things into the AMVCs for consideration?
Of course. They did win some,
Okay, all right.
They won some of the.
Okay, so I stand down.
Yeah, but to be fair, if you talk about Africa content, right, Nigerian content, Nollywood content, I will have to give it up to the multi-choice family because they have been in the market for 20 years. So you can't just come anyhow and show up, some of the solid players.
I think,
fair enough.
Like you said, it's been an interesting journey to watch. To see that battle, because I remember when Africa Magic first started investing in local content,
the quality
was a problem. Producers complained about how much they were getting paid, and there was a big learning journey to get to a place where audiences were happy with the content. Like Africa Magic had to learn quite a lot of lessons in terms of commissioning content. And again, at Iroko, you had like the Iroko Challenge, Rock TV Challenge. So there has been a big learning curve.
I think for me, the good thing is that the quality of the content that we are producing now is something that we all are proud of. Like you said, when it all started, it was somebody with one camera just. Now you see the quality of the sophistication, then the storytelling itself. It's different. They're trying to compete in markets where you'll be judged for even lighting or what you wear. So the detail that goes into you producing content for streaming has upped the game in that market, and it's for the benefit of all of us.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, we the viewers are the ones that benefit from it.
No doubt, the investment in that space, people are now more interested. They can see the investment opportunities, especially people who want to invest in content, because of the quality and the monetization that streaming brings to the fore. More and more people are getting interested.
Fantastic. I mean, just kind of, we're going to round it up on a slightly divergent tangent, but an important one from a tech perspective. How do you think about AI? It's a big content creation challenge now. The Hollywood strikes, one of the big things was, is AI going to take our jobs in terms of writing and all of that? Is this a space you guys are concerned about yet? Is it a place you're doing
it's a space that we've embraced fully.
Okay.
Why? Because we want to treat you as you. Imagine you open your Showmax profile.
Yep.
And the genre of content that you have there are what is suited to you.
Okay.
And
so
over
you're
time,
using it for personalization.
For personalization.
Machine learning
is simply introducing new content. As you're watching one content, it's going to be recommending content to you. The engine is getting better and
so
better.
Are you using it for content creation yet? Or is that still somewhere
at the
in the
end of the day, we don't create the content.
You don't create the content, okay, all right.
If there's opportunity there, of course, content is about what our viewers want. If you create an AI content, if it's good enough for viewing, why not?
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to talking a lot. There's a lot more that we could have touched on, and we look forward to having you back. Thank you very much, and we wish you, the best of success.
Thank you very much.
All right then. Thanks.
Welcome back to Second to the Future, where we have just had quite an interesting interview with the CEO of Showmax, Filani. Tell me, what were your thoughts?
I thought what was a really interesting takeaway was how confident he was in the ability to compete with the global platforms. There's a David and Goliath type thing where you see big global platforms with all their money, Amazon, Netflix, they have dollars, billions of dollars. They're going to wipe you out. But then he talks about sort of like the defensiveness of the local terrain, like understanding your customers, understanding the market. And this wasn't actually part of the main interview. We talked about this backstage before the conversation. But he talked about simple things like payment processing, which is still such a big issue. Now, if you're a big global player, you plug in, credit card payments. I don't know if everybody's going to make credit card payments. If you're feeling really ambitious, you do Naira payments for them so that they can pay in Naira, which of course is like a whole backroom thing because now you're not collecting the dollars that you understand. You're collecting Naira, and you feel like you've done something. Whereas Okwe talks about the fact that people are still trying to pay in cash.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's thinking to himself, which system am I going to plug into the back of this thing to allow people to make payments in cash and collect it, USSD, and if you go up there, you're doing like Stripe, and again, if you're feeling exceptionally adventurous, Flutterwave, whereas he's like, I'm gonna start with Flutterwave, I'm gonna put Stripe, I'm gonna put Squad, and then
MasterCard, Visa, and Verve, everything.
Whatever it is. And that's like only one small part of what it takes to compete. But even in content, I think like there's opportunities,
The truth is that the nuances of being a Nigerian or having operated in the country for many, many years, you can't sleep on that. That gives you an advantage that being a big player would never begin to understand. But beyond that, I think the depth of content is another advantage that they have. Now, I understand content producers always talk about the big ticket items, right? Everybody's producing.
Everyone wants to do $1 million movies.
Yes. So that Netflix or Amazon can pick you up and then you can retire. I don't know how deep Showmax pockets are and whether they can get those deep, those big tentpole content.
I mean, they invest significantly, just not in like
exactly. So not the big tentpoles. But then what that does is that there is now a depth of content that they have. Now you layer on top of that the fact that they are the original. There's Iroko. So maybe they're not the first ones, but they actually own Africa Magic. I mean, Africa Magic is on their platform, right? So they have access to depth of content, Nigerian content, African content. And then layer on top of that, sports. Layer on top of that, live sports. I mean, so what they do have, and it's
a nice competitive stack.
Dude, and it explains the confidence. It explains the confidence.
No, it's really interesting. I think on the content side, something that now I'm curious about is that we need to get one of the content producers or some of the content producers to come in here because it is interesting the way the landscape's changed. So, there's a time Netflix is bringing all the money in and then Amazon Prime comes and it's like, great, maybe Disney's coming. Yeah. And so the future is looking quite bright for like these really, really big tentpoles. Now you've had Amazon Prime pull out of the market, by all reports. Netflix has been a bit more conservative in kind of the size and the frequency of the checks, or perhaps not the frequency, but at least the size of the checks that they're deploying. And kind of that word of Disney. Disney is facing plenty of issues in America, so I don't know how much international expansion. So what does that do?
Yes, so the impact, I think, and that's why we should have that show, is that everybody now becomes a little more humble and says, okay, where are those people again? That's Showmax, where are they? Maybe they're interested in my content now. So all sorts of content, right? So there's the long form and even short form content is now a place. So I think you're right. We should do a show on content producers, long form and short form, because I think there's a lot going on there, and there is a lot of opportunity to monetize. In fact, when was it? Meta has just announced that they're doing something for content producers so that they can monetize better with content. So the truth of the matter is that there is a big play for content producers on the continent, especially in Nigeria. And short form and long form, there's quite an opportunity for people to be able to, earn more of a living, right, on content. So beyond just on the Showmaxes of the world, you have your TikToks and your YouTubes and all the other platforms. So we should do a show on that.
We definitely should. I think one final point is humility. I think it's been really interesting to see the dollar and the devaluations and all of that. And it's not just Nigeria, but across Africa, how it's played out in the tech space. Ngozi mentioned kind of the humility of valuations coming down. And so here too, it's just like, well, if you're not going to get those big checks from Prime or whoever it is, you're going to have to think a lot more carefully about what the local market is.
And a lot more practically and realistic about how you make money. Indeed.
Thank you very much for being with us today. Join us next time as we take you into the business and impact on tech in Africa, how it's changing the world, and how it's changing your world. Stay tuned on Arise News.